I left here just to read real bad.
Actually doing it. We better sign
I
it.
was very, very bored. I worked my butt off, so I had to do the thing. So you guys earned those. I have a pressure like, even when I did it for the dinner, I just wash it.
Otherwise, he would be,
Shake it, let it.
paying 6 bills.
Works for a few months.
It's just kind of a difficult situation to be in.
Yes.
Like, you gotta pay the bills, but it's nice on your kids.
I'm not authorized. Okay, we've got to begin this meeting. I call to order the Syracuse City Council work session for May 28th, 2024. The first item on our agenda is public comment. This is a chance for you as citizens to bring up something to our attention that you'd like. It is not a Q&A. It's not question answer. We don't get to answer your questions because that's not advertised on our agenda. So is there anybody who would like to make a public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment. The next item on our agenda is a report from the Disaster Preparedness Committee regarding the Great Shakeout Drill that was performed April 20th, 2024.
For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Dan Merkling. I'm a member of the Disaster Preparedness Committee. I'm the Emergency Communications Specialist. Additionally, I happen to be the Davis County ARES Amateur Radio Emergency Service Assistant Emergency Coordinator for Syracuse City. So I'm into ham radio pretty extensively. Every year we try as a committee to put on a disaster exercise. You don't plan for a disaster. You plan for a wedding reception, you plan for a dinner party, but you don't plan for a disaster because you hope it never will happen. But we all know that the disasters happen. So what we do is we prepare. And that's what we try to do as a committee for the city, is we try to convince our fellow citizens to prepare, to practice preparing for what would happen if we had a disaster. This year, we decided to utilize what Utah is using as the template for disaster response, and that's called RDAP, Rapid Disaster Assessment Program. Basically, what it does is it says that anybody in an affected area can be a nose counter. Now, the chief and the chief don't have enough bodies to cover a city the size of Syracuse. If we had the rumored 7.5 earthquake down the middle of the Wasatch Fault, and all of a sudden Syracuse was in a disaster, the police and fire department don't have enough people or equipment to find out where all the problems are in Syracuse City. So what RDAP does is RDAP says, okay, in your area, in your neighborhood, you make sure your family's okay, and then you immediately gather wherever happens to be designated, and let's go assess where the damages are. So we become then the eyes and the boots on the ground, which we can then transmit to the fire department, to the police department. Oh, there's a house on fire, or oh, a roof has fallen in, or something to that effect. That's what RDAP is. Syracuse, as a city, is divided into 6 districts. Here in Utah, FEMA has a cooperative agreement with the LDS Church to utilize the LDS Church boundaries as the FEMA districts and areas. So for example, I live in the Syracuse stake, but that's the FEMA Syracuse district. My home is in the Heritage Ward, but that's also the FEMA Heritage area. So each of the 6 districts in the city have a certain number of areas, anywhere from, I think the low is 8 and we have one that has 12. In our little mini RDAP exercise this past April, what we wanted to do was just do nothing more than count noses. We weren't trying to do all of the fancy stuff that RDAP is set up to do. We just sent out the message through the city website, through our social media. We got the mayor to chip in his monthly message in the magazine. And then, of course, we talked to all of the stakes and wards to put it on their social media, that all we wanted the citizens to do was to hang a red or a green something on their mailbox, on their garage door, on their porch, so that we could run through their street and count red, red, green, 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 and so on, and report that back to the city. Basically, green means we're okay, we don't need any help. Red means we're in dire straits and we need some help immediately. And anything else, we call it yellow. In other words, yeah, we don't know what's going on, but it's not either definitely red or definitely green. So that was our goal for this year's exercise. We just wanted at 10 a.m. on whatever it was, April the 20th, we wanted to be able to run through the streets of each area and count up the reds and greens. Then those would be totaled up by district and radioed in to an imaginary EOC, Emergency Operating Center. Now the city is building out a new EOC at the south end of the police building, but for our exercise, we used that room and just set up our ham radios to receive the reports. We hoped that what we would have would be one district ham coordinator or emergency communications coordinator talking to us at the city to give us the counts. Didn't quite work out that way. We had quite a bit of or quite a lack of participation. When it was all said and done, what we ended up with is, you can see here on this map that, for example, Legacy Park District came through with 96% count and participation. And they got the facts back to us via a ham radio transmission. Bluff came in at 91%, and they also talked to us over the air. But then you can see some of the others. My district came in at 18%. West came in at 14%. South was 70% and Fremont was 46%. So overall for the city, we had 55.8% participation in the county. So if this were a real disaster, if we had a massive hazmat chemical leak, or we had a wildfire or something to that effect, what it basically means is half the citizens in Syracuse are fatalities.
Let's be optimistic, only 45%.
Okay, 45. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to year after year. Add a little more, till eventually we'll be able to do an RDAP, a full RDAP exercise some April. We always tie it to the Great Shakeout, which is usually the third Thursday of April, and then our exercise is on that following Saturday. So we try to do it that way, just because the state of Utah already is getting everybody excited about emergency preparedness because it's the earthquake month. But our hope is that we can get at least a majority. We'll never hit 100%, but it would be nice if we could get a majority of our citizens involved in this. Yes, Jen?
What was the common denominator between Bluff and Legacy that the rest of them didn't have?
Well, two things.
And be honest.
Okay.
I almost think that this might go more things go, but what's, yeah.
The common denominator was both of those districts have an extremely well-oiled ham radio community. And two, they also have very active emergency preparedness specialists in those two districts.
They probably got the ones that walk around door to door and talk to everybody.
Uh-huh.
We didn't get that this year. And I
Yeah.
was wondering where that person was like, why is our person not coming around?
Yeah.
Well, we got a letter.
Bluff is built out and people have been there for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
West is under construction.
Yeah,
Well, I'm in Fremont Park. Which one
Yeah.
are you in?
West,
yeah.
What are you in?
Look at all the unbuilt area in Fremont.
Is Jordan in South?
He's in Bluff.
He's in Bluff.
Where are you at?
Bluff.
So the common denominator is a very well-trained, very active ham radio community in that district. And the other one was they have people who are very passionate about emergency preparedness, and they do. They go around and they knock on doors and they hang things on the doors. And so you end up with, like Legacy Park, 96%.
That's impressive.
That's, yeah.
I think that was impressive.
it-
But
it-
how, so when they go around and do the count, because it said to leave something on your front step, your front porch or whatever.
Right.
When they go around and do the count, how picky are they? The guy was out mowing the lawn, I left the gas can, so I'm like, are they gonna count this? Because it was red, you know? But I was still like mowing the lawn, I don't know, like how picky are the people doing the counting?
I'm guessing that the red
Like,
gas can probably didn't get counted, but
It said to be red
I
and
would
obvious.
would you have counted it, Eric?
See?
Okay,
See, but some of them
You
wouldn't
were
have.
mowing the lawn and I knew you were okay.
Yeah, I almost ran over myself that day. So it's a good
The
thing.
good part about it is if you had that red something there and we took that as, okay, you need help and all of a sudden the cavalry shows up and you're like, no, this in, you know,
Mowing my lawn.
it's better to know than to not know.
yeah.
Good to know. Okay.
And that's basically what RDAP is all about and what we as a committee are trying to push is we want you prepared. We'd rather not count the dead bodies.
Okay, my
Mayor.
understanding is that that we're reporting the percentage of the actual counting, not the percentage of people who put something on the porch. Is that correct? Or are we actually?
That's what they were counting.
So,
No.
well, no, because wait a minute, he said earlier, if you had nothing, then you were reported as yellow. And when I read the report, there were a lot of people counted as yellow. So my understanding is this is the report, this is how many people checked, not how many people actually put something out.
Correct.
Oh,
Correct.
okay.
So what would, for example, in Syracuse, I personally did the counting for my area.
Yeah,
Okay, because I knew nobody was going to do it. I went around and counted the number of houses and counted the reds and greens.
and that accounts for the 18%.
And that counted for the 18%. I'm the 18%.
That's so much, there's like a green rose bush growing up on my thing. I was like, I better put something red. Almost stood out.
So, yes, it was how many houses
Were counted.
got counted and then reported back to us. Okay?
Okay.
So it's not a foolproof system, and especially right now, we are so early in getting it in the mindset of the Syracuse citizens that we aren't to the point where every year, like clockwork in April, everybody knows, oh, let's go to the nearest building and go count the houses.
I feel like the Boy Scouts could be involved.
The good, if I may, the good part about it is in any disaster, the first half an hour is going to be a complete, maybe even an hour, just a complete chaos, right? But what this RDOT program does is it's able to bring it all down, and it's very, very, very simple to follow instructions. Because what happens is when you have made sure that your family is squared away and the people closest to you are good to go, in Utah, especially, the very first thing after you've made sure your family is good is we want to help. So we go outside, we see what can we do. With this RDOT program, that makes it so we can hand you a clipboard and one of these fancy lanyards with an assignment on it, and you go do the things. And there's a map on there which shows you where to count, and you come back with a number. It's very, very, very simple. So
Thank you, Aaron. It's still chaos, but it's a little bit organized chaos. And the thing that's really important about it is that both of our chiefs get information from 1,000 sets of eyes instead of, what have you got, chief? 18, 20,
30.
31? 40. Okay, so instead of 70 sets of eyes, they get information from 1,000 sets of eyes. And information is critical in a disaster.
Okay, any questions, council?
Yes, what do you need and what's the timing of that?
Let's see, we need a budget of 15,000 a year. Yeah.
A retired ambulance.
Denied?
Yeah. Right. What we need is, and this isn't specific to Syracuse, it's all across the Wasatch Front. We need people as a whole to understand that a few minutes or a few hours once a year of preparation is not a waste of time, because the disaster is going to come. Now, I think it was 2 years ago, our emergency exercise, our disaster exercise was that one of our chlorine trucks rolled over and exploded on Antelope and Bluff. Could that happen? You betcha darn tootin' it could, because we have those trucks coming through about every other day. Have we had a hazmat incident in Syracuse? No, we haven't. But what would happen if we did? Are we prepared to deal with it? Or are we all going to get wiped out? Fires, floods, earthquakes, those kinds of things you don't plan for. You prepare for it. And I think that's the thing that we need more than anything else, is we need in the mindset of our fellow citizens that preparation is not a 4-letter word. It's something that you do because you want to stay healthy and safe, and you want to keep your loved ones, your family, your friends healthy and safe. And being prepared is the only way you're going to do that. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Are we allowed to ask questions? In the scenario, within an hour, I agree, if the accident happens at 5 o'clock in the morning, everybody's still home with rain. Does the city have anything for additional, if the ham radio guy in your neighborhood is in Salt Lake, because he works in Salt Lake, it's 4 hours before he gets home?
Or more.
In a situation, are there opportunities for multiple people to go, is there classes here in Syracuse?
Okay, this is really just a report. So
Okay.
we really can't, I mean, there's gonna be stuff that is gonna come out. There are classes that are regularly done at the fire station for, they call them CERT, for preparation for emergency response. All of that's available, but tonight the discussion was just a report on what happened. So we need to move on with our agenda.
Anybody who does want further information, my email address is dan.merkling, MERKLING @gmail.com. Get with me and I I will give you information ad nauseum.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Oh, here's a-
All right, our next item of business tonight is Councilwoman Carver, and it was assigned to a task force with Green Events, you made that correction, LLC, regarding the potential for a farmer's market here in Syracuse.
So we
Would
didn't,
you like to start?
yeah, we didn't actually have any options. We had one choice for each thing. So we got Thursdays and at the museum, but everything else is,
Okay,
Mr. Matt, if you would like to, it's attached on the packet. This is Matt, he and his wife do all of the farmers markets in the local area.
okay,
And they do, so I was not even about to pretend to act like I know anything about how the taxes and stuff work, so this man does.
all right, so Matt will invite you up to the table here. We've got a chair by. We can add, and then I'm sure the council has some questions about how this would work out. Who would like to start? I have questions too, if you don't.
That's fine.
My question is, what's the cost?
So,
That's kind of
right,
not fair to jump right to that,
no,
right?
that's fine.
Well, I mean, the idea is this wouldn't cost the city. This
The
would be a
city, yeah.
separate.
Yes.
It's just the
It-
use of
It, yeah, it
the
doesn't cost the
space
city.
on Thursday afternoon, evenings at the
Okay.
museum.
All right,
That's what it's costing the city,
Use of. the
use of space.
so you would be the management arm.
Yep.
And you would run this in the city, but it's not a city-run thing, so I don't need to provide staff.
No.
What needs are you able to fulfill other than if we provide the location? What else do you need?
Just the location and then maybe, some trash cans. And that's basically it from the city.
And we can provide some advertising, because we want this to be a success,
Right.
because there will be sales tax generated that needs to come in,
Mm-hmm.
okay? What other questions do you have, folks?
How do you advertise for it? I saw the internet.
And we mostly do Facebook and Instagram. And then every morning before we throw out a bunch of A-frame signs around so as people are driving by, they see it.
Okay,
So where you do a lot of farmers markets, what makes a successful farmers market? How do you get them to flourish rather than fizzle out and die?
Yeah,
Which is, I think, what we've seen here.
Well, that's a hard question because I have no idea. I just did it and it just worked out.
I think that like one of the things that they were telling me is the first year for each of them has been kind of slow go, like West Point's first year is this year also.
Yep.
And how's theirs doing?
Very well.
Oh, see, so.
But
We got
that
way more
one, we
Californians
believe
than West Point.
that West Point, because the city is kind of backing it, like you said, the city's advertising it more, where Sunset wasn't, and I think that made a big difference.
so we're happy to do the advertising because it promotes something, an activity here. So we're happy to do that. Providing the location, again, that works out. But our farmers markets in the past, we've not done them for a couple of years. But the big issue was there was a large city expense with employees. Meaning there's a lot of time that goes into that.
Mhm.
But you're gonna provide all that, right? So it's not gonna fall back on the city of come save us or.
Nope.
Okay,
They were actually very shocked that we weren't gonna charge them for the space, because some cities do that, and other cities like West Point
yeah,
have their cities like, okay, well, we want this. So, but Sunset charges you,
Mhm.
right, to use the park space. So,
They charge us X amount every week,
yeah,
And then you charge the,
the vendors, which
Vendors.
makes up for what the city charges.
okay,
Cause it's a business, we're in it to make a little bit of money.
sure, sure. Okay, so does anybody else have any questions? The next step for us then would be to vote to authorize this on the June meeting. It seems like we have support, so you could plan to open in June.
Okay? That was just the only other thing is like the set date, so we can let people know.
Is there a target for how often? they
Excuse me.
go?
This is not a public comment. So,
it would be weekly on Thursdays.
would it be?
right, there would be set times.
Okay, just
And we can do, okay, so obviously we can do this on a set schedule, so it would be weekly. It would happen following the June 11th meeting, so it would be the second full week in June.
The 13th.
Or 13th.
Okay.
At the museum. Oh. Yeah, so,
Is there-
yes, Krista,
So is it just gonna be in the museum parking lot? Is that
just the
what
parking lot, not in the park?
Right around the park. I don't, whatever
What's
use that the museum has over
Big
there.
parking lot. Where do you put the cars?
Cause we've done all the discussions with the museum already in their meetings and they approved it.
Okay,
Over there.
so that works.
Block off like the entrances, so there's no parking and then just use the parking lot?
I have no idea about that. That's gonna have to go through like how they're gonna set it up. So you guys can talk.
Well,
Okay, so,
I just
you know, these are
imagine-
questions that have to be answered.
Yeah.
Because we have had it at Centennial Park before and then used the parking lot. We have had it in the parking lot at a couple of locations, over by where the EOS someday might build. And we've had it over a few different,
There's a lot of
Locations.
road parking right there on that side road, on the east side of the museum also. So if it did end up in the parking lot, and if they ended up closing it off, there's plenty of parking along there and in the other parking lot right on the south side of the PD.
Well, I mean, you can use the community center parking lot too. I'm just saying, are you restricting it to the parking lot? Cause if it's in the park, we're gonna need to know. And then just as something that you guys might want to think about for the museum is you do have those people that will come with the RVs and stay
Yep,
over.
yep,
So
they already got
make
that
sure
covered.
on it. Okay.
Yeah.
okay. All right,
So
so
they
it
have
looks
like
like,
on grass or on,
Preferably on grass, just because we found that when it's on the grass, people like to stick around longer because it's not as
so we're
hot.
talking about in the park is not just the museum, but actually around the track.
That would be preferable.
Just, and not, so I'm, for the record, we're bringing in Cresta Robinson, who's the Director of Parks and Rec. How does that affect our program?
Well, I think that they would just need to get a site plan and fill out what they're actually gonna do, because there's obviously irrigation and stuff that will have to be adjusted and turned off, and then like if the council is going to approve that, then we'll have to work.
Okay, so that'll be an issue we'd like to have solved by the next meeting, is to know what your actual space you'll use so that they can account for irrigation issues.
We're actually gonna put it out on the park.
okay,
But I think it's doable.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a sidewalk there. It's very doable.
Miss Cresta actually put me in contact with
Okay,
Matt and she's like, he does all of them. And I was like, oh, thank God, you know, so that worked out well.
okay, are there any other questions from council?
Is that far enough away from like Chloe's playground and the water park that we won't have? the
Oh, it's a
parking?
pretty good distance.
Because they're gonna be overlapping parking issue, you know.
Actually, I've been surprised that our splash pad has not been busy at all.
Well, just
Really?
open this.
And it's
Will
just,
be, though.
yeah,
Will be.
well, no, I know it will
Yeah,
be, but
so Thursday nights it'll be open and there'll be a
Yeah.
lot of people at.
what time does splash pad close in the evening?
8 o'clock, I think, is just
The
splash
black
pad.
is open from 10 AM to 8 PM.
Which
Yeah.
I actually kind of think later, I don't ever remember seeing a ton of people during the week, later in the evening over there, but I think it would probably benefit farmers market, because then there's more people to spend money there.
I would just say, we have the pavilion there,
Yeah,
keep it on the north.
North side of it?
Pavilion, because
That's
you
way
have
less
people that
space.
are renting that out and they're using space around
Yeah,
that.
it makes sense.
yeah, I don't think they would even
Yeah.
close to that. That's a lot of space.
Okay, so it looks like we got a couple of things to bring to us
Yeah.
for that meeting for approval, so that we'll know
Okay.
what we're approving specifically. I would ask that you write it up and submit it to either through Jennifer or to Cassie, our city recorder, so that it will be on that agenda and it will be public for everybody who has any questions what we're voting on.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on, we're gonna bring Noah Steele to the table. Noah is our
Knock that out.
economic development
Do that.
department head. So first item on our agenda for this is proposed ordinance 24-10, amending the Syracuse City zoning map for property located approximately 2250 West Antelope Drive, from R2 with city, a town center city overlay and A1 to general commercial. Now, this is an item that has been carried over from the May 14th business meeting. So council, this is your opportunity to bring forward any concerns that were unresolved that left us unable to vote on this item. Or what concerns do you have to bring forward?
I thought we didn't want to do this because it just leaves it open for anything. Wasn't
Well-
that our,
Well, yes, because in my opinion, this is such a key piece of commercial. And so it's right there across from Walmart and at the last meeting, we got approached with a really quick diagram of maybe what they were thinking about. And so I think the purpose of tabling it was to have the developer have a chance to say, maybe to flush some things out, maybe discuss a development agreement where we could have assurities of what type of commercial was going in there, because once we rezone it to commercial, without some sort of agreement that they can put anything that qualifies in the commercial zone.
Right.
And so that.
yeah, because it just says building.
And initially, that was the concern that was brought forward, was that if we didn't have some idea what type of commercial was being proposed, that we would want to hold out until we had that. Now, the original or the developer of record does not presented any letters of intent for specific businesses.
I mean, all they really said is, retail space.
Yeah.
Right.
3 would be retail space.
So that would be the situation of what was asked for in the previous work session was, can you provide us some proposals of who these businesses might be and what type of business we would be agreeing to? And I do think that it's worth considering that we do have some housing close by, so we want it to be housing friendly. I mean, there's fences and walls and all that works. We just don't want to be in a situation where, dance club would not work well there. I mean, the noise element would be a constant complaint. But it could be done in general
Kind
commercial.
of like down on Antelope and Hillfield down there
Okay,
in Layton, where they've got that little old complex. It's kind of almost like the one that the bird sits in here. Across the street from
Okay.
Chevron, you know what I'm
Oh, yeah.
talking about?
Mhm.
There's houses right behind it right there.
mhm,
One of those businesses right there, I have a friend that works there, and they have one little grocery mart in there, and then the people in the neighborhood complain like that, like crazy, because that one little food mart plays music during the day, and there's a couple of elderly folks that live right on the other side of that wall. So that's one of those things that's,
well, the advice to council would be if you want to have
Bringing
a
in a new
say in
shift.
who is in there, you should wait to approve this until somebody has an idea of who they're bringing.
and I think that was what our
Yeah,
consensus
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
last time, so I was surprised to see that on here, like, right away.
well, you tabled it, so we have
Yeah,
to. do
so we had to bring it up.
Yeah,
So
but
again,
It
there was
was-
nothing
The
new.
but the motion was to table it for discussion at this meeting, so we have to follow through with that specific motion. So the question would be that, are we free to put this back on the next voting meeting and move forward? You don't have to approve it today. Somebody else can come forward with a proposal when they have tenants in hand.
Yeah, I would be
Yeah.
fine with that, and then we can make a decision based on what they have. I just don't think we had enough information
Yeah,
to make a decision.
It's not a question answer.
yeah, tabled it for more information, we didn't get that, so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the next meeting. The next item on the agenda is recommendation from Planning Commission. Application for zone change preliminary plan approval for property located at 2425 West, 2700 South. Architectural A1 and residential R3 to planned residential development PRD. So we have seen this before. It came forward for a council discussion and advisement, which we do have in our process. It has now come forward with a plan that they're asking for us to approve. Questions or comments or?
So the only thing I see here is the step road on that phase 3. or phase two, right there against phase two and phase three. The school's not gonna sell that. Why is that a stub road?
Well, I think stub roads, this has come up before, and so let me answer that by saying that if there's a potential for a property that needs access, we always have to provide it. There are lots of stub roads on the west of town to property that we know will probably not likely be developed, like out to the sewer board property. But we have to provide them in case they ever do get developed. You can't cut people off.
Yeah, but
I hear what you're saying, but if the property,
it's
because
stupid,
it's
is
less
what it is.
likely, okay, because it's less likely that it will be developed, doesn't mean that we can make it so that it couldn't be developed. I actually have the same issue on a property that I own in
Okay.
another city, where somebody's tried to say, okay, if you don't sell to us, we'll cut you off. Well, legally, state law, they cannot cut me off and tell me I can't get to my property.
Okay.
We have the
I
same
know you
issue.
can't landlock it, but it's not landlocked and it wouldn't be, so that's dumb, but okay, all right.
So are you okay with, does that make sense? Let's go.
Yeah, I got it, yeah. I still think it's dumb.
It doesn't mean it's not dumb.
So my concern with the development is, one, the density. Again, I've expressed this before. They previously had an R3 designation and then wanted to go for a higher density PRD. We've got a lot of units in a relatively small amount of area. I didn't see any additional parking other than the driveways. We've got just for the size of the development, we have a few minor amenities. Those are my concerns kind of with where it stands right now,
So this is the 50 and over active adult community,
the 55
55
plus.
plus.
Well, so that's governed through CCNRs, which could be changed. So if in the future, if they can't sell enough to 55 plus, they could change that.
I mean, they already have one development here in the city and they sold out before they even,
Well, I'm just saying it's possible.
I mean, that doesn't mean that everyone's gonna work. I mean, I'm not sure I would want to retire to a place
I
right next to the
would.
freeway.
with no kids living next door to me, it would be wonderful.
Okay, and that's not the part that I would object to. I would object to being right next to the freeway.
I would take the freeway every day of the week over. Anyway, I see where you're going with that.
Okay.
But the other one, I mean, it's right there it was next to Bluff, right along Bluff.
Okay.
So this is something our city needs, like with this, we've talked about this in detail and it was, I mean, we need this. I think that he did everything that we wanted to change. I do think this stub road is stupid, but that's my own personal, you know. And I'm pretty sure they've already got, people came to that last meeting that they were here just to talk about getting on the early list for this. So I don't think they're gonna have a problem selling out, making it. You don't remember that? There's
Any other
3 people
questions
here waiting to
about-
talk to them.
2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah,
Any other questions you need answered before we could vote on this on the next meeting? That doesn't, we're not committing to either way right now.
I think my concern is just the whole concept of it. It just, is this mid-density? This is not high density. This is supposed to be, mid-density, right? Does it look like mid-density? I mean, is there planned green spaces? Do they have parks? I mean, old people play pickleball all the time.
yeah, they got those.
Is it too congested with the cement? All the, parking is, your stalls are just one after another. It doesn't feel.
There's no guest parking, which concerns me because if
That's a huge concern.
if you are gonna be in a senior community, theoretically, you have visitors. You don't have to. I mean, Jen doesn't want visitors, but that's okay.
No, I've got so many right now and I just don't want
Well,
any more.
This can't ever change from 55 plus.
Yes, it can.
It can't. I mean, can you imagine buying into that at 55 plus and then they change it and all these kids come in?
But legally it could.
And there's no place for the kids to play or go. It's just a big cement.
And they're not very big. I think the largest one is like
No,
3
and-
bedrooms.
And that too, you're gonna have kids
Yeah.
on the other side of your wall.
No, you don't. That's the point of it.
If it's a 55 plus.
That's the point of
There's
it. So you don't have kids. on the other side of the wall.
Yeah, but
And
you
if-
can't-
Beautiful thing
I'm
about it.
saying if it, but that worries me, saying that someday, if it doesn't sell enough, then they'll change it.
Well, they already have one in the community. We already have one right
Yeah,
there.
did
And
it change?
No, it's still.
Yeah.
Doing just fine.
But it's still, it's just the concept plan of it, that this. It just feels really congested and 55 plus depression.
Brett, did you have any?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. So like everything else, it's gonna come down to Jordan.
Mr.
And the George, but
Switzerland.
I
And
mean,
that's
although,
shocking.
I mean, this has been on the plans for a while, right?
Yeah.
Like before I came on board.
Oh, yeah, no, this was.
Yeah.
It's been going on for a while and, I mean, honestly, I hope it's the last one.
It started out as a.
I mean,
art-
I want to bring development to Syracuse. It's gonna, elevate and inspire Syracuse, not turn us into nothing. I'm way past 55, so I'm.
No,
Yeah, but we
Not
have
against-
all kinds of those, all that people put
Well-
an application for
well,
all the
that's
time,
all
all
that-
kinds of
right.
diversity and developments.
Right.
This is just
I'm
one
just
more
saying-
diverse development.
One more high density development, good. It's been planned, it's been in the works.
But it's not entitled. You do not have to pass this. I want to make sure that that's clear. You could just say no. I mean. That's not a recommendation. That's just a clarity point. Okay, so this will be on the next agenda for a vote. So we will move that forward. Item number 3, discussion regarding potential creation of residential rental unit registration program. Who's going to cover this? Because not everybody's been here when we talked about these. So go ahead, Noah.
Yes, so it's a lot of cities have what they call a good landlord program. And we talked about it as a council, it's been a minute. But the city commissioned a study to evaluate whether or not there were more police and fire calls towards rentals. And that's called a disproportionate rental fee. So it's essentially like an impact fee. So a lot of cities will charge an extra fee to rentals because of that extra impact on our police and fire system. So that study is in your packet. Zions did it. They evaluated the addresses of all of the police and fire phone calls. The city does not have to institute a disproportionate fee. It just can't go over that amount if we decide to do that. So the surrounding cities that do this, Clearfield does it, North Salt Lake does it. In the study, there's a list of a lot of other cities. And so you can do a rental registration program that's a requirement. And the way that works is basically the landlord has essentially a business license if they're renting. Like, for example, North Salt Lake does, if you have more than 4 rental units, you have to register as a business. So you're a renter, and then there's a per unit fee. And if you participate, I see the hand, one second. And so if you participate in the good landlord program, there's a class, and the landlords are made aware of certain things and can participate with police cooperation. And then the idea is that disproportionate fee or the rental fee could be discounted after the class is taken. And so depending on the city, sometimes that fee is lowered quite a bit, or sometimes it's lowered just a little bit. So that's what this discussion is tonight. Are we still interested in the rental registration program? If yes, do we also want to do the disproportionate impact fee? And if yes, how much? After reading through, there's no plagiarism in government, and if there's other programs that are established and running, so there's North Salt Lake has a program that seems to be established with fees that are not objectionable to the property owners. And so staff recommendation is, if we are going to do this, that we would copy something that has been, they've worked out some of the kinks and things like that. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here. But I know this is new, so I'm happy to answer any questions or try to figure out. What
How did they determine that it was a rental or owned property that the owners lived in?
So with the county parcel data, you can take there's column in the parcel data that says site owner and situs address and owner address. And so you can compare the two. I don't think it's an exact science, but you can tell if the property owner address is different than the site address, then it, you know, or if it's like property owner is American Homes Rent, you know, it's a rent. So they can use it with county parcel data. Then they can geo address based off of the call data. So then they can pinpoint whether or not it's on it. Zions did the study, you know, so they could answer better than I.
Paul,
So here's my 2 cents. The property owners pay property tax. When they build the unit, they pay impact fees already. We're just coming up with another way to tax property owners.
Yeah, this is a no from me.
I don't have really any appetite to pursue this.
Yeah.
Well, and also is it, I mean, you looked at all the surrounding cities and came up with Clearfield and North Salt Lake,
Exactly.
and that was it.
That's what we're comparing us to these days.
I mean, there's,
there's actually a few more, but
There's other.
I will say that talking to a couple of mayors who administrate a program like this, it does seem to be heavy on administration, which would be increase our costs as a city, because you have to go out and figure out how many, you know, units are out there and how many of them are
And it's,
should
So,
apply.
it's,
This is, I rent. And the cops have been to my house one time because I locked my keys in my car. Thank you, officers, for getting those out. That was a bad day. But frequent flyer Tom next door has cops there every other day. And they rent also. So I am not interested in paying an extra fee because homeboy can't control his temper.
Well, you wouldn't pay it, but it's okay.
Yeah, I would. Yes, I would. Ultimately, I
ultimately,
would. It would rent.
Ultimately, the
Yeah,
increase.
absolutely would.
I get, okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
And
It's-
This is done under the guise of, well, we're gonna make landlords take this good landlord program, which isn't a bad program. It's put on by the Utah Rental Housing Association. But all it does is mirror what's already in effect in state law. We have the Fair Housing Act, the Utah Fair Housing Act, we have the Fit Premises Act that landlords have to follow anyway. And
Right.
so I don't see why we need to administer it as city
I mean,
and tax property.
this, just to give you a little background, when about 3 years ago, when we had a lot of applications for apartments all at one time, the question came up, well, does this offset or does this create need for more law enforcement, for more city services like garbage administration? We asked, is that a question? And what came back was it all gets easier if you have some kind of program like this. Now, I did not agree with it at the time, but again, that was the decision of that council, was that this would help offset costs. We've never actually employed this program. We've talked about it. We kind of have to put it to rest. Whether we're going to employ it, we need to do it, or if we're not, we need to say we're kind of done. So I wasn't in favor of it then, but I'm in favor of making a decision. So
I feel like staff should always be on a per capita basis. Yes, if you fill 1,000 apartments with 2,000 people, then yeah, you're gonna need more people.
you're right.
It's just how per capita works.
Okay, so do I have an appetite to try and create a good landlord program of some sort? Or should we just put actually, this is our self-initiated, so we don't have to vote on this if we don't want it. So is there any appetite to continue pursuing this, or we could just be done with it?
Done.
I have no.
Well, that's 3, that's a no, moving on.
Okay. We're done. Item F, review and discuss proposed interlocal agreement for dispatch services in fiscal year 2025. Who's handling is this you, chief? Okay.
Chiefs and chiefs. There's 2 chiefs listed on here.
Just let the one go.
He's a good talker, huh?
All right, so we obviously have a dispatch agreement because we don't have our own independent dispatch. But tell us what's new, we need to know about this interlocal agreement.
So basically what this does is just outlines our calendar year. So their, excuse me, fiscal year. They've now corrected it to where they bill us on our current year or on our budget year. So this puts in our costs for the coming year. For the police side, they base it on the number of officers that we have. For the fire side, I believe you're on calls. So calls for service. So they do it a little bit different, but this is the contract rate that we pay for them. So we do this every year. And as the mayor said, we don't have our own dispatch. And right now we don't have a competing entity to be able to bargain against if we were trying to try. This has already been covered in the budget information that you've been viewing for the upcoming fiscal year. These numbers are already in there.
We would just need to go ahead and make this a proposal on our next budget to say we agree to continue with the interlocal agreement for each year.
Monopolized us.
Or have no dispatch.
Got us.
Or have no
They
dispatch.
got us.
Considering the alternative is those who choose
When they
not to
got you by
dial
the
nine
cops.
one one and choose to put it on Facebook and think that we will come. I'm for the 911 service. All right, any other questions?
No.
All right, thank you, chief. We will put this on the next budget for a vote and a resolution to continue. The next item is consideration of surplus action. The police department has a K9 vehicle. And without a K9, we do not need a K9 vehicle. Chief, anything else you'd like to add?
That is kind of the gist of it, but a couple things we just need to know. So we could continue to drive this truck. It's true, right? I mean, it's not, doesn't make it so it's not usable, but one of the biggest things is all of the safety features that we installed with it. And so when we don't have jacks, now we're going to send him off and you're coming up against those summer months that get very hot. To me, this is just, we have the ability to surplus them to it. It's at a fair price and this is better for jacks.
So you're sending with the,
Not yet. So they haven't taken custody of him yet because we wanted to work this part out first, because otherwise they're gonna have to try to repurpose an old shop's vehicle
Yeah.
and hope to get that in with all of this equipment and.
I was hoping he was gonna go to Roy.
so with what we get, okay, so with what we recover here, are we able, how much does that offset a replacement vehicle? Because we still need an officer vehicle.
Yeah, so basically what we'll be able to do is we're gonna surplus it to them for 41.5. That's as much as the chief could come up with at this point in a budget year. So she came up with 41.5 on it, and I may need up to about 5,000 out of our current allotment in capital fund right now.
To replace the.
To basically just for parts, so out of all of that, we'll be able to get an unmarked vehicle that'll be equipped for service. So total in on that would be at about, well, obviously about 46.5, but it might be a little less. We just.
Okay, so that's
Depends on what
actually not
happens
too
with
bad,
some
and
of
I'm comfortable with that, but I do want to bring up one other question you raised. We have, for lack of availability more than anything, gotten into a lot of unmarked vehicles. My question is, do you feel like the unmarked part of this has changed the perception of our?
I feel like that's a
presence?
different topic that
It
we probably
is,
aren't supposed
but
to talk about.
He just raised the question. I just wanted to
It's not
comment.
on the agenda.
Mayor, there's only 2 unmarked vehicles.
Oh, is that all?
In the patrol
Okay.
fleet. One of them is a traffic vehicle.
No, that's fine.
But
That's fine.
there's only 2 that are unmarked in that group.
Okay,
they're
The
awesome.
other one's being used by a supervisor.
Okay. I'm good with that. I just wanted, you raised the unmarked issue. I wanted to know.
Yeah.
It's our RoboCop.
If you go forward with this, I think the previous resolution we did authorized us to dispose of not only Jack's the dog, but all related equipment. Are you anticipating another resolution for this particular vehicle?
I don't know the answer to that one. Legitimately, I wanted to make sure that we knew, number one, that this was going to be allowable because we purchased the truck with beer tax funds. So I wanted to make sure that we weren't gonna run into any kind of issue with them if we then tried to surplus it, so truthfully, I don't know the answer.
All right.
I think there was a time frame limited to that of what we could do with that vehicle after a certain amount of time that we purchased it. Thought we talked about this truck when we talked
Probably,
about
when we-
switch.
probably when
talked
we
about it.
converted it to the
Yeah,
K9
when
truck.
we were talking
Yeah.
about the, yeah,
So I mean, I do think that there was a year time frame on that. I don't recall off the top of my head what it was, but when I called the program manager, and
Yeah.
we went through
but we
all
were
of
already
this.
over it,
Yeah,
past that time frame. Yeah.
she basically said, look, you're good with this as long as you're not trying to turn around and sell them this truck for $100,000, right? Make a profit to put back in the
Right.
city.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm okay with this. Jackson is a good ride. He's a good dog.
Okay, so I am gonna ask
Miss
that
him.
this be researched between now and the next meeting. If our previous resolution covered this, we won't need to add it to the agenda. If it did not, of course, we will. So it sounds like we're resolved on what to do. We just need to decide if we have to take an action. Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you,
Chief.
council.
Item H is easement request from the Nature Conservancy at 2550 West and Gentile pertaining to the Utah Department of Transportation West Davis Corridor Project. Brody,
Okay, this is a request that actually came from UDOT, but what their intention is to have an easement through our property down at the fields. It's a designated open space property from the field subdivision connecting on to Gentile. They're gonna run an irrigation pipe that goes alongside our property under Gentile and then daylights out into the wetlands. And that was part of their original negotiations for wetland mitigation for the West Davis Highway. And so the idea is that water shares that UDOT has control of would allow water to actually just get directly out to the wetlands to feed the wetlands out there. Because the highway took out wetlands, they have to help mitigate and preserve additional
so they're
wetlands.
creating wetlands.
This is what's in the draft MOU. If there's anything, you have any questions
So-
on, let me know.
The way you phrase that, raises a question for me, and that is that UDOT has water shares that they would then be using to create new wetlands. Water shares are so scarce. Is there not another way that we couldn't?
Make it rain more.
No,
Well, hold
this-
on to-
no, this spot right here needs this. So if you've driven down Gentile through irrigation season and had an experience with Mr. John Green's overflow because of the overflow, because of the overflow that now comes off of from the highway, it's gotten so bad out there that coming around that curve, people will stop because it looks like the road is caving in. And the only way we're gonna fix this is to put a pipe under there. It's the only way they're gonna fix
I'm
it. So
good
if
with
they're
the
gonna put
pipe.
the bill for it with a easement thing, we probably need to do it.
I'm good with the pipe. I'm concerned about.
That's their right.
Other way to use the water shares because
That's
water
their
is such a
right.
scarcity.
Have to buy it.
The wetland needs it too.
UDOT owns them.
UDOT owns them and that's where they wanna send them.
Just put them out as a.
I like how you
They
try to
negotiated
cut
with
people
the
out of
highway.
them.
They want.
That's a-
They negotiated that with the Nature Conservancy for the
Yep.
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 highway. to-
Because they have an alternative, and this is what I want everybody to be aware of when you vote. And again, you vote on your conscience, but in all other properties, if you have wetlands and you want to mitigate them, the process the state has provided is you buy existing wetlands as preservation property, not meaning you go and you create a new wetland. Now, I'm not gonna dispute whether this is a good area for wetlands or whether it's.
Already wetlands.
I think it was a.
It already is
Okay,
wetlands,
but
they're just
the point is,
sending the water.
what I'm bringing up is whether it's a good use of a water share or whether they could preserve something that is a wetland without adding water to it.
They cut off the water going to it that was already going to it because of the highway. So they're just redoing that water to be able to get back out to where it was originally going. And it came off from, so the way the highway comes down and all the water would come off before Gentile. So Now it pushes it back up to where John Green leases that property and it creates an astronomical amount of water that's no longer getting there. So by putting that pipe in, it now goes back to where it was originally going in the first place.
It's not really.
So it's not creating a new one, it's just sending the water in a different direction.
Yeah, and I may have misspoke if I said creating, but
Yeah.
what
This
it is
corner is a
mitigation.
pain in the, but I like fighting with John Green over it, so please, by all means, let me continue.
I think it should be.
Sorry, Robert.
It should be noted that it won't be UDOT's easement. The easement
Yeah.
will eventually be turned over to the Nature Conservancy and it will be their easement. That is why in our draft MOU with them, we're saying it does need to be purchased from the city.
So then they would have to maintain it.
And they would have to
Mhm.
maintain it, and.
Just let them foot the bill.
One item that's not in the draft that we do need to add is the city's ability to move the pipe. If we ever need to do anything with the property, we can go ahead and move it. And make sure the water still goes through. So we'll add that language in
It's
there.
gonna take my summer fun away, but it should, but it's.
Yeah, if we decide that we do not want to grant this easement, I suppose the UDOT's option is to find another way out to the wetland through other properties, but.
But how does that end up altering our relationship with UDOT and buying and selling property in the long run?
Well, I think the greater question really comes down to, does this interfere with any of our long-term plans? When it comes to easement, the question is, does it hinder our use of our land? When we're talking about granting it, I'm not sure that it
It
does.
probably improves it.
Well, that's the question. Does it? I don't know that it does.
Yeah, in our analysis, and we talked with Robert and city engineer Brian Bloman and looked at it, and we recommend that they run it down the edge of the property to minimize that
Right.
possibility.
It does cut across the corner, I
So
saw.
that I think they're
There's a
actually
road.
not
Oh,
gonna
they're
do
not
the
gonna do
corner.
corner?
It used to, the original was to
Yeah.
follow the original channel, which did bifurcate the land. And
Right.
we figured that would be a bigger.
That would hinder our use of the land.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that I don't want to do.
If they're gonna pay for it, make them do it the long way.
Was there an amount agreed upon that they are paying? I can't remember.
So UDOT is in the process of getting the appraisal, third-party appraisal, and typically these easements go for 50% of the market value of the property.
And they're also creating the legal description.
Yeah, the reason for the MOU, just so we understand what's going on here, the reason for the MOU is they need this pipe in now, but they're not ready. They don't have the appraisal, and they're not ready to actually buy it and go through that process of buying. So, this is an authorization for them to do the work under an understanding that they'll buy it and get all the paperwork done later.
I get how this works. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. But I do hate whenever, there are wetlands that are created by tailwaters and it only exists when there are tailwaters. I hate the idea that this would be dedicated shares, so it would be for sure that usable water would always create this. Not that we don't need wetlands, we do,
I
but
feel like that's something you gotta take up with UDOT.
it's not a UDOT thing. It's a usable water thing. But we're not gonna solve it at the city level. That's a state level issue. And I recognize that. For the record, I hate the fact that we lose usable water. But
I don't know, we got farmers on the edge of the city that got flooded out with usable water all the time. So. Could use that too.
Yeah. Any other questions or concerns? And I don't even think we need an action on this. This is just, if there's
more
not,
of an information.
if there's no objection, I can just sign the MOU and
I was really looking forward to arguing with John Green this summer.
or the mayor can. I think once we do the actual transaction, it'll come through council for the actual easement.
Okay. We will move on at this time to item I, continued review discussion of tentative budget for fiscal year 2025. We don't have any new information to present here. This is a chance to bring up anything that you want to discuss between now and the time that we vote on it. Council members, do you have any issues you want raised?
I know.
New issues?
New issues? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna move on. Because we do have to vote on that, so last call. Okay, we'll vote on that in June. Item J, discussion regarding participation rates for Syracuse City in Utah Public Employees Retirement System and the Public Safety Retirement System for fiscal year 2025. Steve, brief us on where we're at with this one, because there's been a lot of discussion.
Yeah, so this is actually just for the state. It's they prefer a resolution each year to show that we have adopted the new rates for retirement. We are required to pay retirement on all full-time employees. There are, as you can see, 9 different retirement programs with local government, public safety, police, and public safety fire. And the percentages out there to the right. So this is more just a informational piece with the resolution will be approved on June 11th.
Council, any issues, discussion?
And these rates are already factored into our previous budget discussion.
Yes.
I don't.
As the mayor was alluding to, we also talked about pickup of the 2.15% for public safety. That was a change made to the latest draft.
I feel like just the way we word this, we are required to remember when people work somewhere because that's what they got after was their retirement. And now we would cut it if we could.
I don't think it says that.
Yeah, well. I can guess.
Okay. Any other?
I don't have any other comments.
I don't hear.
Okay, we'll move this on to the June meeting. Item K, discussion regarding proposed wage scale updates for fiscal year 2025. Steve.
So I put in the packet, the wage scale is the current, and then the proposed, the changes in red are the proposed changes. All of them, with the exception of the assistant city manager, are just benchmark adjustments. And that one new position for assistant city manager is on there as well. So if you have any questions as you compare these side by side, they are position specific. So some increase differently than others. It is based on the market for that position. Yeah, leave it at that.
Council, any discussion or items you want to bring forward? Okay, seeing none, I will move us on.
I can't believe our firefighters make less than $1 more than our crossing guards. That's insane to me.
Okay,
That's my comment. You're welcome. You can move on now. Thank you.
okay. Item L, discussion proposed amendment to the Syracuse City Consolidated Fee Schedule for fiscal year 2025. Steve.
So we've talked about utility rate changes, those total $6.15 over the 4 different funds. Both because of operational increases from third party and also for our 5-year capital improvement plan. Fire department had quite a few administrative changes, nothing as far as fees go, just some clarification. And then police had a few changes, increase in the contract service from $60 to $85, and then some changes to the grandma request. And then later in the meeting, we'll talk more about utility bill advertising, but we would like to make some updates to that as well.
Council.
I don't have any comments.
I don't either.
Okay. Seeing none, I will move us on to item M. Continued discussion of public information tools. This would be part of Kara, if you come forward. Where we left this one was we are without the magazine starting this month, as we had no real option to continue that at the time under the present circumstance. So we decided to move on with a newsletter that we'll put in the utility bill and talk about any other options that we may decide. Kara, what do you got new for us?
So it's similar to what you've seen the last
Okay.
2 meetings, really just deciding what you want to do. We do have the printout that's going in the utility bill as well as the MailChimp newsletter that will go out in June. So June is covered, we should be good there, but it's really determining what you want to do on a long-term basis. If you want to continue forward with doing a digital newsletter, building that subscription list, getting that out. It's kind of a flexible way to disseminate information. And then how often do you want to include something in the utility bill, if at all? You had talked about potentially doing 6 months and then maybe cutting it off, or only doing for special events such as October and Heritage Days. But we really can tackle this however you prefer. I did provide a couple different options so you could see, you know, if you were to do something every single month, what the cost would be, just making sure that we could fit it within what had been previously budgeted. And all of these options are within that.
Thoughts?
I like going digital and maybe doing 1 or 2 special announcements in the utility bill for like Heritage Days and maybe Halloween, something like that.
I feel like if we had like a manager's report style, like thing online, digital online. It's so easy to navigate that manager's report. If we had something that was attached to the city website, that was literally just like that. That people could subscribe to. And instead of Brody sending it out, like Miss Kara, hey, your report's here. No, I like that. And it saves a lot of money.
Yeah, I want to go fully digital on it eventually with just a couple in the bill.
Okay, then we'll stick with the digital option. With the utility bill option, do you want to do just a single page, double-sided? Couple times a year?
Times a year.
Heritage Days, probably in June, October.
Heritage Days is the most important, I think.
Halloween stuff, I think.
We're trying to get Halloween going too, trying to
Supposed
corner
to
the
be
market.
Halloween City, we
If
got
we
it.
do
Halloween
a
down.
spring, summer and a fall, winter.
So let me throw this out there.
That'd be good.
If you do twice a year, the question that I would have is, do you beef it up to cover everything on the city website? Or do you send out something that's just about the twice a year events, meaning Heritage Day and the October stuff? Maybe it's limited to that.
In my mind, it's like an additional punch for those special
For the-
events.
So it wouldn't be the full blown newsletter. I think that's how I would.
I agree with that. Yeah, that way, because if people, you know, object permanence, it's something that comes out and it's got all kinds of things in it, you're not really, but if your focal point is just on one specific thing the city's got going on and we're sending you this just to make sure you know, then people, oh, okay, well, this is important, it's something new.
So I would probably recommend that we make that a resolution, that we will do a twice a year activity update that would be solely focused on the activities of that particular event. The question that's going to come up in a future meeting somewhere will be when somebody says, is there another event that should we be doing a Christmas issue? Should we be doing a 4th of July issue? I mean, you have to cut it off somewhere. You know, you have to limit it because of the cost.
And you could do it quarterly if you wanted, or you could limit it to those 2 special, because you've also got your Easter egg hunt.
Well,
Yeah, but that's not really
I mean, I don't know if it would work because you'd have to have the dates all in order and everything.
Yeah.
Everything arranged ahead of time, but you know, do the spring, summer, do the fall, winter.
Because really, I think our digital presence is what we're gonna be
That's what we
pushing.
need to
And
Yeah.
this is
And
strictly,
this will just be more of a date,
few
save the date.
supplemental.
It's gonna be a save the date kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even get the bill, so I wouldn't see it again, but, yeah.
I would focus on the digital. I think that
Right,
the magic
right.
is to capture people there.
Yeah, and
Because who doesn't surf on their phone while they're on the toilet, you know?
And anything that would go
Most
in
of
the
our
hard
seniors.
copy would also go digital.
Well, and putting out the hard copy will make people
Which
rely.
would be the seniors for the hard copies.
Well, but then people will expect the hard copy, see, so.
Hmm.
That's true.
If we just cut it off, just cold turkey, it's like, sorry, it's online, end of discussion.
I think that the more likely you are to get people to read it is to have that be the issue. The more focus you put on the digital, meaning that's where the information is.
Yeah.
The more you hold their hand, the more they won't convert.
I
Right,
don't
and
know, I
then if
still
the-
don't scan that QR code thing.
Well, and then if the one in the utility bill isn't comprehensive, that's gonna be a disappointment to people, you know, it's like, where is all the information?
Well, it
Well,
can
I
direct
mean-
them to the
It could
website.
direct them to the
It could,
website.
yeah,
And that's
and
what it's gonna
that's
lean
the
towards.
I think that twice a year thing in the mail are kind of is specific for people who don't go online and, you know, like lived in their house for a very long time and want a reminder that, oh yeah, this is going on this week, we should go. You know?
So what's coming out in June is already coming out. That's already arranged. So are we good with a plan? And this is from what I'm hearing. Am I good in surmising that between now and the fall, we will just emphasize digital?
Well, now you're saying and not
I'm
emphasize
saying digital with 2 annual,
Yeah. No, I mean,
So we
between
have
now and the fall issue.
oh, yes, because
That's
we
what
have
I'm
one more
suggesting.
fall, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Between we would
Yes.
put one in the
Yeah.
fall, so we would determine at this point when that comes out. If that's the October issue, we can still talk about when the
Yeah.
midpoints
well,
are.
first we need the digital and then we can
Right.
push people to it.
But that's why I'm saying, do we put all of our attention on getting the digital up and launched and
Yes,
pointing people to it? And we will do something in October. That's what I'm hearing.
absolutely.
Okay.
yes.
Focus on getting the
All right.
digital up ASAP,
See, senor.
ASAP.
Do you want to add paid advertising as a component into that? So doing some Meta, Google kind of event reach, digital reach, and potentially some print, just to kind of build up those events as well. And then it could provide reach not only to our residents, but maybe bring in a little extra outside of it.
I think if it helps supplement our costs in doing it, yes, I'm not opposed to having some advertising.
You know me, I like rich companies to pay for a lot of things.
This is actually us paying
This-
to
yeah, this would
advertise
be
the event.
Us paying to
Oh.
advertise.
Oh,
Essentially number 3, right?
Yeah.
we worded that differently.
Sorry.
Yes.
Us paying-
So us paying to advertise events digitally through Google, like through
Oh.
their paid events forums, through Meta, through their event pushes that they do, is trying to get more people to come out to our events.
I think Weaver Davis County Moms on Facebook kind of handles that. You think I'm kidding, you think I'm kidding.
So I
There's
guess my
like-
point to that is I've never heard of that. So is
Oh,
it
that's
the
what I was
only
gonna
one?
say, give me an example of that I have seen.
It's when
I
you,
need to know your target.
Where it said
Right?
sponsored, when you're scrolling on
Anything
Facebook,
that says
something it
sponsored
says
ads.
sponsored ad,
Mhm.
or when you go on Google to Google something
or
on
when
your
you're looking
phone.
on Facebook and you see an ad on the side or something.
None of it is ever local.
Or whenever you go.
Doesn't mean they don't pay
into
for it.
Meta or Google and are looking for events near you,
Mhm.
those are the events that hit at the top.
I think,
Well, Davis County does that for us. When we tell Davis County what we're doing, they do that for us.
Do they?
Yeah, they,
How? What's about?
they say this is happening in Syracuse and
If we submit it to
If we
their
submit it.
calendar, we have to
So-
submit to their calendar.
I've realized, you know, how, like, social media is like the best advertiser, and I don't know if if either any of the women in here have used the Weaver Davis County Moms. They know, like, everything is advertised on there, like, they talk about all the things, and it's like, it's insane, so. Yeah,
We pushed all the events onto that last week.
so.
yeah, I know, I saw seen all of ours, and people are like, oh, they're doing this in Syracuse, I'm like,
that's right.
Weaver Davis County Moms,
Yeah.
man.
But so essentially we're seeing
Yeah.
an extra $1,800 a year to spend on some paid advertising.
I don't think we need the
Comfortable with it.
Google
It could be
advertising.
Print advertising, it could be.
It's pay per
Just a
click,
variety.
so whatever budget we set, whether
I
it's
don't-
$1 or $100,000,
The
that's
combination.
what we would spend. I don't think.
We already
need
have
that
crappy
much.
parking, everybody denied giving us good parking.
No, I don't think we need to go above what we can do.
I still think we need good parking.
That's my opinion about
Okay, I'm not hearing a real
Going to the next-
consensus
going
point.
to the
Are
next
you?
level of
Am I
advertising.
missing
I wouldn't
that?
be opposed to trying some paid advertising.
How much?
I
What kind of
felt the same
budget?
way.
What kind of budget? would you-
$1,800 that we've proposed here.
And that's not very much.
Yeah,
It is not.
Mostly it's
I
not,
would
it's a
say,
few boosted posts here and there, a few boosted events and.
and I'd probably focus that around major events.
I would say that probably the best way to handle this is you set a budget and a time frame for that budget. Whatever it is, I'm not telling you what it is, but that's because that's the way it works. When you, like, I do this for a living, so when you're working on Google Ads or Bing Ads or Copilot or any of that stuff, what you're doing is you're saying, within these parameters, I'm willing to bid this much for advertising space. And so the point being, you use the budget within a time period. So if you want to set a budget for Kara and say, okay, we'll try this the next 3 months, then the budget expires at that point, and you don't go past it. You don't keep bidding on, because Google would have you pay forever.
Well, so you got expertise. Is it worth us putting any
Yeah,
money
that's-
towards it?
That's what I wanna know.
Yes, I would say that it is for specific events. I wouldn't put just general announcements up there. I mean, I'd be very picky about what I'd,
Then I would almost say we do it around our
Heritage Days.
Heritage Days.
Yeah,
and
it would
I
be
wouldn't-
More of the big events.
Here's where I would go. My advice would be things like Heritage Days is unique to Syracuse. Not the
But every
name
city
Heritage
has
Days. Oh, you're right, but the time frame, they don't do it at the same time we do.
Right.
So my point is, we wouldn't be bidding against some other city next door trying to do the same week. So if we can find our
Well, what we are
sales to the
fighting
week
against
before
is the
and
air
during.
show.
Okay, excuse me. So if we do it to the week before and during, then we don't pay, like, I would specifically recommend you don't pay for like 4th of July, because 3 other cities are trying to focus on that time frame. We're not, so we're not a competing, for those same job or ads on that point. So focus your advertising where it does the most good. Yes, there's an air show that does compete with us, but during that week, we're gonna be the only, and this goes back
We're going the
to,
week before the air show.
This
Oh,
year, it's
we
the
are?
week before,
we do
yeah.
a week before,
Next
so
year's
there
the
really
same
shouldn't be that
every
much.
well, I
other
should have
year.
paid a lot more attention to all the air show stuff that they told me it cost.
That's the air show thing.
Because I was like, oh, it's always Heritage Days, I'm not going anyway.
We
Okay,
do it every other year. so we
Yeah.
bump it up.
all right, so
Good
here's
job,
where. Here's where I would say the issue is let's make sure that we target what's unique to us. And this would also go back to, a few years back, we tried to change the name to Syracuse Days instead of Heritage Days. We kind of have gone Syracuse Heritage Days so that it's all in there, but the more that it's unique to us, meaning the Syracuse word or some other name, lots of people have a Heritage Days. Clinton has a Heritage Days. We don't want to compete with them on a term that is not our city. We want to be unique. So these are the reasons why you brand per something, if we called it Buffalo Days, which we're not, but I mean, Onion Days, whatever, it's unique to us.
I love it.
I would be okay putting a time frame and a budget for digital advertising for those, again, those are 2 major events.
Let's just not compete where we don't compete. Like July, I would do no ads.
Yeah.
Because
What do you think?
Because the other cities are.
other cities are competing for those. And we just have to outbid them, we have to pay more to get,
Right.
and we're not.
Why would we advertise anything in July?
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right, is my question.
No, we're not.
Exactly. Why would we even, never mind.
So let's,
Because if you use Google Ads.
Oh my
and you
God, it
study
was
takes
theoretical.
enough. So you specifically don't.
agree.
Yeah, for June and October, I would agree. Yeah,
Okay.
but June's pretty much, I don't really know how much we would get this year in June.
We'd have 3 weeks of advertising.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
still have
So we
plenty of
would have-
time.
Plenty of time.
So what do you want to set as your budget? I suggest we do $1,000 in June and maybe 1,000 in
Is that-
October.
Sure. Because you know how much
Yeah,
it costs.
I don't, because I don't do this market. I have not competed
I
in
would
this
say that
market.
might even be a little bit high for just
It might,
those 2 events. based off of what I've done before with paid advertising, that's probably a little bit high. And we want to run some A/B tests this first time just to
Yes.
see what performs.
So what
well
would your
and what doesn't.
recommendation be for a budget?
So I would probably put around $500 to each of those events just this first year. Test out what's happening, do some events. I mean, see what really hits best. We do want to do a little bit of print potentially if we need to do posters, and we've kind of talked about like doing large scale posters in prominent places in the community.
I
So
feel like,
that is an
anybody
option.
I feel like we should cut that and do 750 just in case. Cause
Sure. So-
I
so
feel like just
750
in
per
case, yeah.
event.
That's fine.
1,500 total. I would
Okay,
be.
we're not
Yeah.
voting tonight, but that's a good,
I would say
we'll
I'd
put
be
that
okay.
on the agenda for next time. We will recommend that, and if you want to change, you can. Okay,
And then there's one other part of this is if you want, so this is the third part, is do you want to do advertisements within your digital newsletter that you're gonna
in the
be
city.
putting
hall.
out?
So you mean the
Now
digital,
charge
that's a
people.
digital newsletter.
Now,
So
the
does
digital,
that mean
they're
they pay
paying
us?
They pay
They would
us.
be paying us.
Then
So-
heck, yeah.
So those two that you've got that would go out for just the events, those would include the sponsor, so that would be outside of this.
Okay, yeah.
This would be solely for the digital publication.
So that annoying little ad that I gotta check the Xbox on whenever it kind of pops up. I'm okay with that.
We would drop them to the very bottom of the newsletter.
Okay.
Because we're not here to advertise something, but if someone wants to get the word out, they could pay for a simple ad at the very bottom of the newsletter.
Oh, sure. They've not, no,
It
they
would
won't be
help
happy with that
supplement
placement, but
costs.
sure.
I think that
It's,
we would have to limit it to a number that isn't offensive, because if we had let's say we have 10 pages, nobody's gonna, there's just stop
No, but what if
scrolling.
there's coupons for the?
So I
you
feel
know,
like
no, we
At the
like
very
it. We
bottom,
like
we're
it.
doing them a disservice though, because they're putting their money in there and
No,
it
we
just.
tell
to be
them where
seen.
the place.
So
Yes,
what,
and if they
what
are
if they
too.
got like a little 16th of the side of the
No,
screen as
no,
you're
no, stick
scrolling
them at the
down?
bottom. If they wanna pay for it, done deal.
I feel like you gotta be fair to them though. They wanna be
That's
seen.
fair. Some of us like to scroll through coupons. It's fair.
All right. I mean, well, I guess we'll see if anybody buys it.
yeah.
That's right.
And no-
And if they don't, we know it's not worth it.
But
Yeah.
it's,
But there's nothing, I mean, there's no loss because we're not paying for it.
and then nobody will complain that, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I tried to read and every other thing was.
Every other thing was an
I
ad.
don't
which-
wanna turn it
On the
into an
agenda, we have taco time right here. Why is that such a, see, view menu, taco time? And
Okay,
that's
I
like-
didn't even see that,
See, that's,
but that's okay.
That's a
but
browser.
it's still there though, you
It's
know?
still- It's still it's still worthwhile for.
How did taco time just pop up on my
What
tablet?
is
It's
your-
just yours.
You
It's
must
your
have
browser.
been
And
thinking.
you guys wanna know why I wanna throw it at the wall. I
So,
hate this thing.
so do you want, for the bottom of the digital newsletter ads, do you wanna do just one per month? Do you wanna limit it to two? I don't
You
think where it's
really-
at the bottom.
No,
would
I would
probably be
open it
more
up,
I-
honestly,
I'm fine with whatever.
you really
one or
think people
two.
are gonna come out of the woodwork to
don't know
advertise
why.
in the utility bill?
I don't think so. I
Well,
would
it's not
probably
utility
limit
bill, I
it
know,
to two,
but-
just because I don't think
It's not.
you'll get most people even going past the first one.
The one thing is, print media is definitely hard to sell. That's what was reported to us, and I believe that's true. So the reason why somebody would continue with print media is exclusivity. It wouldn't be because I can be one of 40. That's what Hometown Values is. If it's because I would be the one of only 2 or 3. Now, the Arts Council finds that they get donations because they'll say, we'll only print 3 in the program. So there are people that want to
Coveted.
be one of those spots,
That's a good
as
point.
opposed to, oh, anytime I want to throw some money at it, I could just also be, they'll just keep adding pages.
When it's limited, people want it more.
They do.
Sure, look,
1 or 2?
two at least.
2. Let's do 2.
All right.
Two.
Wait, Brett was gonna say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't see a reason to cap it too much if we're getting revenue.
If it's 2, why not 3?
But we can try it at 2 and then see what, I mean, all this, we can just see what happens.
Let's see if we
Yeah.
can get to.
Okay.
If there's an abundance of demand, we'll have Kara come back.
Yes,
and
come
tell
back
us.
to us
I
and
did
tell
put
us.
it at $200 per advertiser space for those 2 spots, just because I feel like that would cover it. That would essentially cover the cost of the newsletter that month, plus the administrative coordination doing.
Great.
One other option is do you want to continue forward with the student of the month section? And if so, do we want to put a sponsor on that section?
I think that's important.
Me too.
I
And the
think that's a big
sponsor-
deal that keeps the
I
community.
think that we put it on our website for sure. And you're suggesting that we have a sponsor. We've been through several sponsors.
Mhm.
Are you thinking of somebody in particular?
No, but it's only $100. It would be in there. There would be the student name. They would pay the cash prize for the student, and then it would really just cover the administrative fee.
So I
So
do
it's
have
really
someone
just
who has
covered.
asked
Oh.
if they could take it over. And the only reason I've hesitated at all is because we were committed to one cycle through this month where graduation was. So we won't have one until fall
Yes.
because we don't do it in the summer. But that was on my future agenda, was to ask you if you wanted to go with that.
I think that's, I think, that's a sense of pride in our city and it's a city thing.
Well, I think you do it for sure. It's
Yeah.
just a question of, is it the Syracuse City or is it a sponsored title?
It's a
Either way.
sponsored title.
I'm okay with that. I think it's great.
I feel like it's Syracuse City, but someone can pay for it.
Well,
You want the
if you're
credit,
putting
but
it in the newsletter, then you probably need to endorse it in some.
Yeah, form
We
and fashion, yeah.
will. So that'll be on a future agenda because I did have that scheduled.
Okay. So then, do you want to include that as part of your advertising? Just saying like, hey, if we do it. it
No,
would
I
be-
think that's a sponsored event.
Okay.
And I would do the same thing if, for example, we had, a specific rec program thing, like, like it. Pass, punt, kick, or whatever they are. If they said, if we had a sporting goods store say, I want to sponsor that. Then they would be the title sponsor. They would pay a fee to be the title sponsor. I would say it's the same thing with this. There is a title sponsor that sponsors this event for the city, and that's where they get their ad. They don't get a separate ad. They get their
The title.
name on this.
I like that.
We'll do that. We'll do
Yeah,
that tonight.
Delta Center. Yeah, we're for year. Yeah.
If you do have an advertiser that wants to do a full year in your digital newsletter, do you want to provide a discount? Like a 10% discount,
Oh,
because then
that's a
we
good
don't have to
question.
deal with them on a repetitive basis. They just submit it.
I like
Yeah, that's
that. 10% discount.
I feel like the more months you put on anything, you should get more of a discount.
Standards, do you want to include the standard that everything has to be family friendly, not contain vulgar or offensive content?
Yes.
Must be of satisfactory technical quality and no personal or political advertising?
Yes.
Okay.
No, well, no. wait a
Hold
minute.
on
When you
now,
say
you're
person-
asking a
Like
bunch
a
of
personal.
city
Political, I'm
politicians.
I actually.
I'm the only one that did buy a sign, so this doesn't
Personal-
reference me.
Here's where the definition of personal concerns me. If you say I'm a personal attorney,
Oh.
is that a personal ad or that's a business ad?
That's
if
a
you s-
business ad.
There's a
I-
license
I
behind
agree.
it.
Personal ads like
I
the,
agree, but this is again, if I'm a personal service provider.
yes, yes, SWF type ads.
What is a first?
I am still for no political ads. That's just not a,
I don't want political ads.
no. I
Politicians
don't-
are the worst.
Aren't they though? God, they suck.
Do you
Okay,
want?
so I don't feel like that one's, nobody wants that. That's good, but the personal, I want to make sure that if it's a personal business.
Yes, personal businesses
If
would be
your
fine.
name's in there, it's not a.
I mean, I can't just take out an ad screaming at John Green through the city.
No.
Cause I might do that.
Yeah,
Maybe
we better-
leave
we
my
better
yelling
not allow
opportunity
that.
with the spike.
And then do you
I get my
want to
frustration out.
limit it to local advertisers only? Like it has to be a local business in Syracuse or owned by a resident of Syracuse, or are you willing to open it up to everyone?
I mean, if Dave and Buster's wants to do some advertising, I'm okay with it.
I mean, would you give priority first to Syracuse resident and then,
I would think,
So-
yeah,
and
sure.
then if we
Yeah.
don't get in?
I wouldn't
then
think we'd have to limit it, but yeah,
we have
if,
to Branch
if
out.
we wanted to give priority.
I mean, they had a hard time getting Syracuse businesses to donate to the magazine or do
Right.
ads in the magazine. So if we're gonna limit it to Syracuse businesses, we might have that same issue.
We might. but-
So if we give them first option at it, like cater to them first, and then if other businesses are like, hey, nobody.
We also might have the issue of somebody who works for a national franchise that isn't actually here, but they want to advertise. I mean, so yeah,
Like
that's
Jack
a
in the
question.
Box.
well, but pick one that's like, what if Chick-fil-A said, I want to be an advertiser in your city, but
The
there's a
entire city
Chick-fil-A
would
here.
think we were putting a Chick-fil-A.
You're right, but that's the question. Should we do that if that's not the case?
I mean, it's better to have it local.
It is
I mean,
better.
if A Floral's in there,
Yeah.
1-800.
Right, 1-800 flowers
It's, doesn't really, we don't really, we need to keep it. local.
doesn't help us any.
It doesn't.
So we provide a priority or restriction.
Priority
Yeah.
to citizens and
I would
business.
say priority.
Chief's got a thought.
Yes, sir.
I just had a quick thought, could there be a price incentive as well for the local businesses? Like we charge resident, non-resident for everything else,
That's a good thought.
Good point.
just a suggestion. Maybe that might incentivize some of the local businesses as well.
In our
That's
fee
a good thought.
schedule,
Yeah.
we could do that.
Cause that might
Bump it up to
get
250
Syracuse
non-local.
businesses to wanna,
Yeah, I mean, it's 200 for local and 250 for non-local or something. I
yeah,
mean,
Or 800 for non.
or whatever, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Let's see how complicated we can make this.
We're making a lot of assumptions. Really.
Okay, that was all I had for L.
Really? For L, we didn't cover M too in
We
there?
have not gone to M yet, but let's
Oh my
hit it.
gosh, I thought we were, I thought that in,
I was already on N.
I thought we
Actually,
really went through
Actually,
that.
that's M and
Oh.
now we're on N.
N, yes,
Yeah,
sorry,
okay.
Gotcha.
I got the wrong.
All right, I thought we went through L and M together.
No, so resolution R 11-23 is the regulations that you set forth previously. These, in talking with the printer, some of them are not allowed at print sizes that are on this chart. And then the pricing is very outdated and we would not want to put any of this pricing forward. So the council needs to decide if you want to continue providing advertising as an opportunity for businesses in the utility bill. So it would go with the utility bill as a separate sheet, kind of like we would do. Standards again, if you want to continue forward with the same standards that we set just recently for the newsletter. If you want to restrict local advertising, if you want to do it,
Well,
again, open with priority to local, and then the sizes and fees. So local
tell me,
advertising.
Since we've had this in our utility bill before,
Yeah,
have we had advertising? in
No.
util- I
Not
don't
for a
recall.
few years. My understanding is
I'm
it's
talking
been,
like over the last 25
Yeah.
years.
it's been a long
it's been a
time.
while, is my understanding, since it's happened. But it's not to say it couldn't happen now. And if it did happen now,
I question if the amount that we get for it pays for anything.
Is this like,
If it doesn't, then
Is
what's the point?
Yeah, if this is too much effort for too little gain, let's.
I mean, are we
And there's
doing this
really
for
no
one
payment.
$200 ad? And I mean, $200 doesn't go very far in a city of 35,000 people.
no, is this is just single color, this is one color, right?
so
Yeah.
there's, yes, there's options, like you can do a full page, a half page, or a third page. That's the only options that the printer will offer at this point, which does not match what is currently in your resolution. And then the costs are very outdated, so you'd want to decide, are we gonna do printer costs plus an administrative fee on top of it?
This is just
Or
for
do we wanna
the
separate?
two print. I don't even think we offer it. This is too much.
Right,
agree.
kind of agree.
I never get this, so I don't even know what it looks like.
Now that I think would make people mad to get that in their, in their utility.
So we could definitely just have this resolution just send it next meeting.
That would-
Let it go.
That'd be mine.
Okay, I'm gonna move us on.
Easy.
It was lots of fun.
So,
Item O is American with Disabilities Transition Plan. Where's Robert? Is
he
it-
ditched us.
Oh, God. Okay,
Oh, there he is.
oh, Rhodey's doing it, okay.
He just popped
I'm
right
doing
in.
it. I can do it.
That's fine.
All right, well, let's get everybody at the table and whoever wants to go.
I defer to Robert.
I also defer to Robert.
So the ADA transition plan is something that was adopted in 2020. It had a list of projects in there and a lot of the projects have been completed. And
So we want to update it, basically crossing off the ones that are completed, adding in any new or updates that we need to do. The thing that really triggered this was desire for the museum to have an automatic door opener on it, which makes sense, but it wasn't on the list, so other things would basically have to go ahead of it before we can get to that. So we figured it's been 4 years, let's update this plan and just be sure that we can still accommodate ADA needs.
Okay.
How's that?
No, well done.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
That's
perfect.
Yeah, we love it.
Anybody, any issues? Okay, so we'll present the plan for a vote next meeting.
That's it.
All right. Oh. I'm gonna declare us adjourned. We're done. Item T.